My name is Martin. I'm going to tell you a little bit about mobile in the enterprise and why we need mobile. So I can see some of you are looking at the screen right now, and what we have there is an example of what is called an app, a mobile app. And as you can see, this is pretty necessary for us. What it does actually, it takes a picture of when you're out eating and you don't really know what you're eating, you can take a snapshot of what you're eating, and this app will automatically calculate or estimate the amount of calories in that dish so you can register it, which is like brilliant, isn't it? So we have a couple of strawberries on top of it. Can it see the ice cream that's lying underneath it? Doesn't matter. Anyway, mobile is here, and as Peter said, mobile is here and is here to stay. There's about 1 billion mobile smartphones today. We actually estimate in 2020 we'll have something like 10 billion devices. This is the main the main tool for working. This is where you check your mail, you check your calendar, you go to the internet, you go into a store and you see all the things on the shelves in the store, and you just check to see whether they have the same goods cheaper somewhere else. You sit in meetings like this and you check your mail. I can see like 3 or 4 of you checking your mail right now, which is all very good, and it's all very, this is what we can do with the mobile device, and this is where it's really interesting to have a mobile device with you. You can work wherever you want, whenever you want, so you are simply more productive in that way. CIOs knows this, and for some odd reason there was a number here called 45% increased productivity with mobile apps. So it's supposed to say 45% there. This has changed the way we work with computers. We used to have a mainframe, we used to have all the web experience and client-server models, and now we've moved up to the mobile world. And it is different from traditional computing. We have to realize that it's a different business model, it's faster life cycle. Things happen way faster on a mobile phone. Think about it, Android. Android has something like, 50% of the sold units right now. The operating system is what, 4 years old, 5 years old, something like that? The apps, so much more faster getting the apps out to the market. If someone comes up with a good idea, that idea is in the market 3 weeks later. We don't have the long waiting periods for developers to create their programs, create their applications. But we also have, at the same time, we have a lot of standards out there. We have a lot of various smartphones. So we have Apple devices, we have Androids, we have Blackberries, we have Windows, which requires really to have some kind of open standard, more like a standardized way of doing things. And again, we can't standardize these things because we have a large variety of operating systems, a large variety of devices out there. But anyway, mobile and mobility creates a lot of opportunities for us. Increased worker productivity, I mentioned. Couple of other things, responsiveness. So the productivity part is one thing. You can work wherever you want. But also the fact that you can send an email to a guy at 10 o'clock at night and he will still answer because he's got his smartphone in front of him, if he wants to answer. That's another beauty thing about the smartphone. You can always say you turned it off and you wait until you get to work next day. But if it's important for you, if it's important for that customer, well, you answer immediately at 10 o'clock at night. So the last thing I do before I go to bed, I check my mail. What's the first thing you do in the morning? Well, I don't want to hear that. Actually, the first thing I do in the morning is actually, seriously, because I'm using my phone as an alarm clock. So once I turn the alarm clock off, I just check to see, if something happened during the night. I can do things way faster when I have my mobile phone. I can reduce fuel and gas, which is like a bit short, but you can actually do that. From business to customer, we have a large set of opportunities where you can actually put applications out to the end user, so the end user can see the way you work faster. Think of mobile banking. Mobile banking is one of the biggest hits for the last couple of years here. Mobile banking, I mean, everybody's using their mobile phone, their iPad, to go for mobile banking. This is, the way we do banking nowadays. They've closed down all the branches. You can't get cash anymore. Eventually, you'll have the ability to pay with your phone. When you walk up, when you go into a taxi, you go into a supermarket, you can simply just swipe your phone, and payments will be taken care of by the phone itself, by the smartphone itself. So, and as I said earlier, you can improve store experience with your mobile concierge services. Actually, just check out the prices with the competitors. So, mobile also presents a couple of differences and challenges. These are some examples of smartphones. The iPhone, the whatever they are, iPads. This is not really a smartphone. Well, it's a smartphone, but it's not really. And I just brought it with me because it's a great phone. It used to be a phone and a phone only. And one of the things we have on this one is that it can actually do the same thing as that one could, but it can so much more. We have the apps, we have the internet, we have mail and calendar on it, and we have everything on it. But the problem is, we don't know where that one comes from. When you work in an enterprise, you don't know where how this device all of a sudden popped up, and why this is now an important tool for everybody. So it actually started with management. It came from, this is a somewhat pricey device. This one is not cheap either. And it came from management that they found out that, executive level, they found out this is just a way faster way of working. They brought them into the enterprises. It's not the workers bringing them into enterprises. But nowadays, everybody's using it. Which does represent a problem, because you don't know how to manage these things. You don't know what's on it. You don't know where the data is. You don't know how it managed to connect to your network, but it did. So you need some kind of control of these devices, and you need to simply control these devices. More things. So new business opportunities. You can actually create business opportunities. So the banking part. When I open my banking app on my phone, it will tell me where the closest branch is of the bank. Not that I would ever need a branch, but it will tell me where the local Danske Bank is. But you can do so much more on geolocation. If you're standing waiting for the bus, for instance, and you have 10 minutes, you can sort of like just look on your smartphone to find out what kind of stores are just nearby me right now. And it will find the stores based on what you last searched for on the internet. So it's actually use cookies, things like that, saying, okay, do you know what? I know you searched for motorcycles the last time. Well, there's actually a motorcycle shop just around the corner. So if you have 10 minutes, go down and see that. It will also recommend restaurants or whatever food you have. So finding out the nearest point of interest for you based on geolocation. You can create these apps yourself if you want to. Mind you, the complexity of these apps, it is a bit complicated to write these apps because you don't really know what you're writing your app for. Which is all great when we're all running Windows. 90% of us were at one stage all running Windows. Isn't that great and simple? Nowadays, well, 50% of the shipped units are Android. 25% of the shipped units are Apple. We still have Blackberries, we still have Windows out there. In the enterprise, something like 50% of them are iPhones. So we don't really know what kind of platform we're designing our apps for. And in fact, cost of developing for multiple mobile platforms is one of the concerns for management. So let's just have a quick look at that one. Delivering for multiple platforms. So the mobile devices are highly fragmented. We have the Android system, the Android's operating system, and the iOS operating system is completely different. We have some native capabilities by developing for the native device, the native APIs, but sometimes that's not good enough because we don't really know what kind of device we're coming down to, or rather, if we know what kind of device we're coming down to, well, do we leave the rest of them out? So my bank, for instance, Danske Bank designed their application for iPads and iPhone first, and the poor people on the Android had to wait until they finished developing their netbank for that. Again, because we have two different platforms. Accelerated time to market requirements. People want this to happen faster. They simply cannot wait for the next version of the app. So the long development cycles that we had on the, say, the Windows platform, 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, that's not going to happen in this market. When you have a good idea for an app, you want to release that app immediately because someone else gets that good idea, and you can actually release this pretty fast. All you have to do is to have access to the App Store, be a trusted developer, and then you can actually have your app in the market pretty fast. Consumerization, quality user experience is a requirement. An app is not just an app. It has to look good. It has to really have the look and feel of the app, of the device it's coming down to. Again, the Windows experience was like a big screen. The bigger screen you had, the better experience you had. You don't have that on an iPhone. You have a very small screen in front of you. You have room for 2, 3, maybe 10, 20 controls, and that's it. Whereas on a Windows application, you would probably have 10,000 controls. So you need to rethink how your app will look, how it will present itself to the user, and it needs to look good, otherwise the user won't use it, simply put. And then you have to connect it to the enterprise systems, and you need to do that in a secure way. Now, guess what? One of the funny things in this respect is that we've thought about all this. So we've actually bought a company called Worklight. IBM's bought a company called Worklight that will do all this for you. The same posters over here, IBM Worklight mobile platform. Build one, deploy anywhere. It's based on the fact that you have like a joint code, and then you use the native APIs wherever needed. Otherwise, you use hybrid apps, so the flexibility you have between web apps and native apps, so somewhere between that you have the hybrid app. So it's really a web app using HTML5 that you put down with native capabilities. So everything is based on HTML5, CSS3, JavaScript. The app can be delivered in a variety of forms, so mobile, hybrid, native, and it's compatible with all the HTML5 libraries, and so on and so on. And I'm not a developer, and I cannot go into details with this, but in case you're interested, IBM Worklight and the mobile platform. Right. So now we've done that, right? We've done the apps. We are there. We are ready to go. We are mobile in the enterprise. And not really. Of course, what does it mean to be mobile in the enterprise, and where do we start, and how do we do this? So how do we react when a mobile device comes into the enterprise and says, okay, I want to live here, I want to be productive for the user? What kind of steps do we need to take in order to come to the point where we can actually have our enterprise applications, our Siebels, our CRM systems, and put them out on mobile devices? Well, a lot of things you have to do first. You have to control the environment before you can actually do this. These are just some ideas on what you have to look at, and the order 1 to 6 is, well, you can shift things around a little bit. But, sorry, was that a question? No, it's just a remark, okay. So basically, if you look at the first bullet, develop a mobile strategy and establish corporate policy. This is where you start. Find out exactly what it is you want to do with mobile devices. They're there. It's a future. This is where you want to go. But is it something that you want to put out from your business out to end users? Are you a bank who wants to develop apps for the end user to use, connected to your system? Or is it something that you want to develop apps to use for internal use? Is it something that you want your users to be able to read mail and calendar, or you just want them to surf the internet, or whatever is it that you want the users to use these mobile devices for? Is it business to enterprise? Is it user management? Is it business to consumers? What is it you want to do? So design your strategy, design your corporate policy. When you have these devices, whether they are corporate owned, whether they are bring your own, people bringing their own devices into the network, find out exactly what is corporate policy, what do we allow and what do we not allow with these devices. I'm going to use my second presentation at 4 o'clock to describe what we're doing in IBM for bring your own devices, how what is our strategy around that, how do we allow that, and what security measures do we take on that. Do I need an acceptable use policy? Yes, you do. If someone brings in a personally owned smart card like this one, I've paid for this myself. I'm more productive actually, but I work for IBM, so I was given a Nokia something stupid that could ring, and that was about it. And I felt I needed, to be more productive, so I went out and bought this one. This is a private-owned device. I have games on it. I have pictures of my son. I have pictures of whatever I feel interesting. I have my private email on it. I have my corporate email on it. If I lose this device, or now let's hypothetically, if I ever leave IBM, I don't plan to. I'm just one of my managers down there. I don't plan to leave IBM. But should I ever leave IBM, yes, they can take away the corporate mail. I don't care. Fine. But they cannot touch my pictures. That's the way I feel it from a user perspective. Is IBM happy with that? Probably not. They're saying this is a personally owned device that you're using in our environment. If we don't feel safe about it, we're going to delete this one. We're going to wipe that one. Yeah, but I have my private data on it. I have my personal data. We don't care. You're connecting to our environment. This is under our control. Or something like that. I think they're a bit more flexible actually in IBM. But you need to come up with a user policy. One of the beautiful things about this one is we can actually track location. If IBM actually knows where I am right now, they can see that in the mobile device management tool they're using. They can see exactly where I am, my GPS coordinates. Are they allowed to do that? Wouldn't it be nice for you guys to know where all your users are all the time? Would your users accept that? So just for the fun of it, I installed this at home just for my demo system and things like that. And I didn't have an Android phone, so I went into my daughter's room and said, "Could I borrow your phone for a second?" "Yeah, sure." And I installed the activity endpoint manager agent point and said, this is it. So the first time she started up the application, it came up with one of these disclaimers. So just so you know, IBM can now control, but it's like a test environment. IBM can now control your device. We can wipe the device. What's this? We can now see where you are. What is this? She said, my daughter's 20 years old, so imagine if I could all of a sudden see where she is. Is this acceptable? Yes, it is acceptable in some circumstances. Is it acceptable for a private phone? Yes, if you write it into a policy. If you put it into the policy, you can actually do that. But work with your lawyers about that. But it is actually possible to put it in the policy. So another thing, what devices are supported? As I mentioned, Android has something like 50% of the shipped units right now. Android is a consumer device. It's a low-end consumer device, to put it in a nice way. In the enterprise, people are mostly looking at Apple devices. One reason, this one is manageable. We know how to manage this one. We know how to manage Android, but we can't do the same things as we can on this one. The real one is BlackBerry. That's where you really can do your management. But BlackBerry is not a consumer device. BlackBerry is a corporate device that's very boring. It has a browser that's not rendering completely perfect, things like that. And that's not the device that the young people want. They want this one. But design a policy to say, which of these devices do we actually support? There are about 6 or 7 different operating systems. Within the Android family, there's about 3, 4, 5, 6 distributions. Which of these do you actually support in your environment? Next, enable mobile network infrastructure. Make sure you know what kind of devices are connecting to your network. So make sure that they're not just connecting to your network. have some kind of strategy around the network, and I'm not going to go into details about this one, but it is something that you have to look at your network. Security concern, lost and stolen devices, data leakage, unauthorized access to corporate resources, things like that, separation of work and personal data. Yeah, it's something that can be discussed to a certain degree. I use my iPad at home, for instance, is a reading device. When we have guests over for dinner, I don't know whether you've ever tried that, but you have guests over for dinner. One of the things that we have on the table is an iPad. And why do we have that? Well, first of all, to find out exactly what we're eating, so we're taking pictures of it and calculating how many calories. But second, it's also a question, when we sit there, we just talk to our friends and talk with our friends, we discuss, okay, so we went on holiday, do you want to see a picture of the house, and here's a swimming pool, and here's what we did, and next year we're going this and that. Oh, did you see the article, blah, blah, and you're using your iPad, which is right there on the table, you know, to do all these things and be the center of the communication. Yes, we also talk with people, but it's always nice to have, you know, your pictures, because let's face it, you know, the world is now the internet, your pictures, your experiences, they don't believe all your stories, so you can actually show a picture of the fish you caught and things like that. So, yes, I don't know about Photoshop, but that does give a sort of like a problem in the sense that when my iPad is on the table and I leave the room, which I occasionally do, can they access my corporate mail? Yeah. They can actually. I could put a password on it, but I don't really care to put a password on my mail, so they could actually go in and look at my mail if they wanted to. They have to be extremely, so you have to be careful on who you're actually inviting into your home. But if I'm inviting them into my home, I probably trust that they're not going into my personal things. They could also find my wallet, which is out in the wardrobe anyway. No, anyway, but look at that and do the mobile device management. So trust is one thing, but have control with a mobile device management tool. Incidentally, I'm representing something called Tivoli Endpoint Manager Mobile Device Management. That's one of the things that I'm responsible for in Europe. But I'm going to go into details on mobile device management later. So now I've enabled I've got my corporate policy, I've got my strategy, I've enabled my network, and I've got control over these devices. So now I'm ready, really, to put it on mail. Now I'm ready to let this, do I have to go over, is this step 4, really? Well, basically, what happens in real life is that people will just start using it immediately. As soon as they can connect to Outlook Web Access or to Notes Traveler or any other mail service, they will start doing that. But, let's try and develop a strategy for what do we actually allow on these devices and how many devices can a user access his email on in case he loses the devices or whatever. But that would be one of the things where you start, the first step really to be a mobile enterprise is to enable this part. This is where you get 85%, 90%, 95% of your user productivity. This is really from mail and calendar. This is where a mobile device fits in. We still need the desktop PC. We still need the laptop PC to connect to the end systems, but this is where it sort of starts with the email. One of my friends told me the other day that he's a head of security in a large Danish company. So he said, by corporate policy, I have to bring my laptop home with me every night, but he leaves it in the car. Because the point is, once he gets into the house, he still has his phone on him, he can still access his mail, he can still see his calendar, he can still do work, and his wife cannot see that he's working. Because he says, whenever he brings his laptop in, hello, honey, I'm home from work, here's my thing, and starts up the laptop, she knows, they're not going to be watching television or having friends over because he's sitting in front of a laptop all night. So you tend to do your work on the iPhone. If he ever needs his laptop for something dramatic, some security incidents or something like that. Yes, he has it out in his car, but he can actually use his iPad to connect to the virtual desktop infrastructure in the company, so he can actually do everything from his iPad if he wanted to. But start with that. Next step. Develop an application strategy. So now I've enabled my mail, and I found out that some of these users are not happy with just reaching their mail. They need to go into the enterprise system. They need to be able to connect to back-end systems. They need to connect to line of business applications. Or you can actually find use cases, and Kenny from Apple is going to tell a little bit more about these use cases. But you can find use cases where it's very practical to have a mobile device as opposed to any other device. KPMG, as I have been told, I hope there's no one from KPMG in the room. There's not, good. So KPMG has, they are accountants and people like that. So what they have is an application where you have the texts, whatever they are accounting. They're talking to these people, and they have the mobile device in front of them, and then they can say approve or I do not approve, and then come up with an explanation why they chose one or the other. And that's all this iPad does. They do not need, when they come out in front of a customer, they do not need to start up a PC, connect the modem, connect the printer, they have an iPad to do this. So look at where the iPad or the mobile device can actually suit your business need, where it needs to connect to your your line of business applications, and then find out exactly how you're going to build these applications to connect to the backend system. Is it designed for a Samsung iPad, or Samsung tablet it's called, or it's designed for an Apple iPad? Is it designed for a smartphone, or it's designed for something else? So figure that out and build a development strategy. And then we can start talking about deploying and manage these applications. So what is the life cycle of this application? How long does it have to be out there? When do I need to update it? Does it need to be business to consumer and business to enterprise? So just repeating what I've just said, a lot of things that you have to go through and to find out how to be a mobile enterprise. Do you want to skip from 1 to 6? Yeah, you probably want to skip from 1 to 5, and then go down to 6, because you don't care about number 4, enable access to mail and calendar. That depends on how, what department you're working in. If you are in development, you probably want to look at this one immediately, or you probably want to come up with ideas to present to the business saying, hey, I've developed this app. Isn't this a great idea? We can make so much money if we just have this app in our environment. So these are just ideas, and they are pretty widely spread on the internet. Go deeper into these details. I'm just mentioning here, of course, they do actually make sense. So next, what does IBM do about this? Well, IBM is actually in the position we can do everything basically. We're IBM, but we have the software where you can actually build these applications. We already have the software to extend your business capabilities to mobile devices. Our Lotus, our Traveler, our same-time agents, our software has been doing mobile apps for many years actually to make people more productive on their mobile devices. And we have the mobile device management part, we have the telecom expense management part, so we have all this, we can actually help you with all of these things. And one of the package structures, so the way we sell our software, is that we have actually created a package called Mobile Foundation. And Mobile Foundation actually includes the endpoint manager for mobile devices, so control of the mobile device. It contains the IBM WorkLight product, where you can actually build apps and design your own apps, and Cast Iron, which is sort of like the connector between your app and whatever backend system you want to run. And we have all that packaged for you, ready to use. Again, go through the other steps before you decide on where you want to start with this. But as I said, my main interest is really mobile device management. This is This is what I do. So I'm just going to stop on that one and talk about IBM Endpoint Manager for mobile devices just for a quick second. Why we think this is interesting. So first of all, we can do management of iOS, Android, Symbian, and Windows Phone. We will have BlackBerry within the next couple of months. So we can do management of all these devices with our mobile device management tool. We have, the reason why you want to use a mobile device management tool is that you can see the apps that are installed on the device. You can have your enterprise app store where you roll out, you deploy the apps to your enterprise, to the mobile devices that you manage. And the same tool actually that you're using for mobile device management, the same tool you could actually use for your desktops, your laptops, your servers, or purpose-specific endpoints. So, but that's a long story. But the mobile device management part of Trivial Endpoint Manager, we're actually pretty proud of. These are just screenshots. I don't know whether you can see them, but this is just an idea of what happens when a device is enrolled and all the information you can see on it. So, it's actually an old one. I can actually see my phone number. I can see what kind of device it is. I can see location on it. I can see installed apps. I can see everything there is to know about this iPad, and I can control this iPad. I can set up Wi-Fi policies so the user won't have to know the password for your Wi-Fi. This one does. The mobile device management tool will actually set that up for the user, so whenever the user comes into your environment, Wi-Fi is already set up. When he walks home and uses his iPad at home, his iPhone at home, well, he can connect to his own internet because we're not really just, controlling the whole. We're not taking the rights away from the user. Mind you, this is still a consumer device. We cannot forcibly install applications on a consumer device. We can recommend apps to them. We can say, well, we have this app, we think it's a very good idea, and we can keep sending messages to them saying, this is a very good idea. But the user still has to install it. We can give access to email, but we don't want to give access to someone using other data services. So this is just an idea of things we control. First of all, the password logging onto the system, so the end user password. We can ensure that there is a password in the system. We can give him access to his personal apps, his personal mails and calendar, corporate profile. We can ensure encryption is enabled. We can set up Wi-Fi and VPN, and we can enable or disable this part down here. iCloud is a great service. I use iCloud for my private purposes, for my pictures and things like that. IBM is a bit worried that I use iCloud, because what happens if I put corporate data out in the iCloud? We don't know where the server is. So basically, if we don't know where the server is, we're not allowed to put anything out in the cloud. But one of the things you can do with Endpoint Manager policies, you can disable iCloud if you want to. You can disable the camera. You can disable in-app purchase. You can disable whatever it is you want to. Safari, for instance, if you don't want the user to go on the internet, you can disable it if you want to. Again, if it's a privately owned device, you're not going to get really popular if you want to do that. But if it's a corporate-owned device, to say, a factory worker that needs to just do this one app, then you can control the rest of the operating system. You can wipe the device if it's stolen. You can deprovision the device if the employee decides to leave the company. So you can selectively wipe whatever is on that device.